There's slides, there's barrels, there's triggers.
It can be frustrating, particularly for a new gun owner, with all these options and all these modifications. What, if anything, actually makes sense? So there's lots of confusion and chaos on what to do. We're going to cut through all of that confusion and chaos, and we're going to tell you 3 upgrades for your Glock that are immediately going to improve performance and make it a better gun to shoot. Those 3 upgrades are all inexpensive. You can probably just do them yourself. And then we're going to touch a 4th upgrade that is a lot more expensive, but from our perspective is mandatory. The internet is going to give us a bunch of hate about that. So if you're one of those people, feel free to drop a comment down below and tell us why we're wrong. So some people will know this through experience, others will just have to kind of take my word for it. But when you shoot a lot, like 500, 800,000 rounds in a training session, you're going to develop calluses and sore spots. We'll go to the shop and we'll show you how to fix that. The frame is injection molded, and so there is basically a parting seam from the injection molding on the frame, and it's really apparent right here under the trigger guard, and that is really the spot that becomes the wear point for most people on a Glock. Get some 100, 200, 300 grit sandpaper. You need something like a wooden dowel, a pencil or a marker will work, and then some masking tape. I'm not trying to shape it necessarily, I'm just trying to get it smoother and nicer so it feels better. Making sure that the seam is gone, and then you've done any organic profiling on there that you want. So this is very practical. I'm just doing this not to make it look cool, but to make it work and allow me to train and shoot a lot. Another common spot on other guns is going to be this area right here. So if your thumb is high, you're going to get a wear mark right here near the web of your hand on the inside of your thumb. It's less common on a Glock. I don't really need to reshape anything, but I definitely could smooth that area out. Ultimately, this is about performance. You need to have a strong positive connection to the gun and to the grip so that you can shoot fast and accurate. So much better. It's over 90 degrees out here today. My hands are sweaty and I'm having a hard time maintaining a proper grip on the gun. Friction is key to a high performance grip. The best way to increase your friction on the gun is to ensure you have proper hand placement and proper grip pressure. To learn more about a proper grip, check out the video below. Otherwise, here are some things you can do to increase friction on your gun. So one thing you can do if you are cheap and it's dry out and you have dry dirt is just go all aggro, pick up some dirt with some brass in your hand, rub it together, rub it on the gun, and now you have a dry gun, dry hands, and you can get back to shooting. If you're fancy pants and you got a bunch of money, then you can go buy something fancy like liquid chalk. Take the liquid chalk, it goes on your hands, you rub it together, it dries out real quick, and again, I can go back to shooting. This is stuff you can do at the range to increase your training and increase your performance. You could also do in a competition. Obviously, it'd be pretty weird if you walked around town with liquid chalk all over your hands. Don't do that. Next, we're gonna cover some things that are modifications to the gun itself that you can use to increase friction. Some options to increase texture and friction on the grip are really inexpensive. First thing we're going to talk about is Ranger bands. These are super cheap. You can buy them for just a few dollars. You can either do a bicycle tire tube or like pre-cut Ranger bands that are just rubber. They go on there and slide on and increase friction. So some sort of grip tape works really well. It's really inexpensive. You could go with something simple like hockey tape. You could get an adhesive back sheet of grip tape. You could cut this to go on your gun. Also, a company called Talon Grips, and there's some other companies out there, make pre-die cut panels that are specifically designed for certain models of guns that can be placed on the gun as well. But they're not permanent modifications to the gun. So they'll come off, you'll have to replace them. If you don't want to do that, you could go to a more permanent option, something like stippling. It is relatively easy to do, but be careful because you can't undo it. Practice on something like a PMAG or something like that. Occasionally the stippling will also wear down, so you might have to go back and freshen it up and increase the texture on it. For a carry gun that is going to be concealed, too much friction can be a problem. One, it can wear out your clothes, and then two, it also can grab your clothes to make it so your shirt doesn't hang freely and compromise your concealment. Much better. Gen 5 Glock factory grip texture is pretty good as it is, specifically for a carry gun. The next thing we're going to talk about though is a factory part that is terrible and needs to go. Factory Glock sights are trash, and I'm going to show you why. They're not acceptable for a gun that is intended to use to save your life. Let's go back to the shop and get a better solution. New sights can be installed with tools readily available online. You can buy a fancy sight pusher like this, or you could just use a vise and a punch. You'd need some sort of a front sight tool. We're gonna use Loctite 222. Purple or pink Loctite is similar to blue Loctite, except for this is designed for screws that are 1/4 inch or less. The blue Loctite is 1/4 inch or larger. You could also go to a local gunsmith or a local gun store. Oftentimes the gun stores will install them for free for you if you purchase the sight there. Actual metal iron sights are crucial for a carry gun, so you want to make sure you have a good set. We found that Ameriglow sights work really well. They're relatively cheap, they are robust. You can get them for as cheap as about $45 on up to $90. For the rear sight, we'd recommend plain black rear. Don't put anything on it. For the front sight, if you want to do like a tritium vial or some sort of color, you could go that route as well. You want to make sure your front sight is not too wide. The narrower the sight, the faster it is to pick up. You see more daylight on the left and right side of the front sight. So make sure you get a relatively narrow, like 0.125 inch front sight. Iron sights are great, but I'm not. So I need some help from technology. People on the internet are cranky and they want to complain about it, but red dot sights are mandatory. They're a huge improvement over iron sights, but they are expensive. Part of installing your optic is you're going to need to use some sort of thread locker. What you want to use is Loctite 222 or purple Loctite, which is designed for 1/4 inch and smaller screws. Red dot sights simplify the sighting problem. They allow you to stay target focused. You don't have to shift your visual focus to your iron sights in order to have the highest levels of accuracy. Red dots on rifles have been standard for decades. At this point, with the improvement in red dot sights for pistols, they should be standard issue. For the red dot, one way to go is have a direct mill slide. You send your slide off, you have it cut for your specific red dot. It is very robust, and if it's done by someone who knows what they're doing, it is a very stable, solid platform. However, you're kind of locked into that specific sight with that specific slide. A more popular option is to go with some sort of modular plate system. So you can get your Glock MOS, you buy an aftermarket plate. I would not use the stock plates. They will break, your screws will come loose. Don't waste your time on it. Get an optic plate from someone like C&H Precision, Forward Controls, or Dawson that makes a high quality plate that is machined to tight tolerances and is designed to hold your optic over the long haul. So now we have our Glock with all the mods on it that we're gonna need. Let's go zero this gun. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. So now that we have the red dot installed, let's shoot this thing and see how it compares to the target we shot with just iron sights. So much better. So my iron sight shots, I mean, they were all in the head box. Obviously, I'm not hitting the credit card. I have old man eyes. I'm wearing progressive lenses right now. And so those iron sights were blurry to me, and there's really not anything I can do to stop that. So for me, it's probably a necessity to have a red dot. But even, 10 years ago when I could still see, it was harder to maintain that crisp front sight focus. Certainly possible for 10, 12, 15 yards to consistently get all credit card size groups in the head zone of an IPSC. But with a red dot, it just makes it so much easier. Removing wear points, adding friction, and iron sights are great improvements to your gun, but maybe the most important is the red dot sight, particularly if you have a Gen 5 Glock where you already have a barrel that's more accurate and a trigger that is better than previous versions. Some people are so tempted by modifying and improving their gun that they just want to make all the changes. So check out this video here if you want to see the things that you absolutely should avoid for a practical carry gun.